Grace had always believed that life was like a pot of soup left on the fire. If you stirred it patiently, added the right ingredients, and waited long enough, something good would eventually come out of it. She learned that lesson from her grandmother. In a small village outside Enugu, Nigeria, Grace spent most of her childhood standing beside an old clay stove while her grandmother cooked meals that people traveled miles to taste. The elderly woman was famous across neighboring villages. Weddings, naming ceremonies, harvest festivals, and community celebrations were never complete without her food. People called her Mama Rose. She was not famous on television. She never owned a restaurant. She never won any awards. But to the people who knew her, she was a legend. As a little girl, Grace watched her grandmother transform simple ingredients into unforgettable meals. She learned how to identify fresh vegetables just by touching them. She learned how to balance spices without measuring spoons. She learned how to tell when stew was ready by its aroma alone. Most importantly, she learned that cooking was an act of love. Food tells a story, Mama Rose always said. Grace never forgot those words. Unfortunately, life changed when she was 15. Her grandmother became ill and passed away. The loss shattered Grace's world. A year later, her father lost his job. Debts piled up. School fees became impossible to afford. Before long, Grace had to abandon her education and move to Lagos in search of work. The city was overwhelming. The endless traffic, the towering buildings, the noise, the crowds. Everything felt different from the peaceful village she once called home. After weeks of searching, she finally found employment as a maid for a wealthy family living in Lekki, the Henderson family. Their mansion was larger than any building Grace had ever entered. The floors sparkled. The furniture looked expensive. Luxury cars lined the driveway. From the outside, they seemed like the perfect family. Inside, things were very different. Mr. Henderson was a successful businessman. Mrs. Henderson was obsessed with social status. Their daughter Vanessa spent most of her time posting glamorous content online. Their son Kyle constantly mocked anyone he considered beneath him. To them, Grace was invisible. She cleaned their rooms, washed their clothes, prepared ingredients for their cook, served meals, swept floors, and received little appreciation. The insults began almost immediately. Move faster. You're too slow. Didn't they teach you anything in that village? You barely finished school. What do you know? Every day brought a new humiliation. Grace endured it all silently. She needed the job. She needed the money. So she swallowed her pride and continued working. What none of them knew was that every evening after finishing her chores, Grace practiced cooking. The mansion had a small staff kitchen behind the main building. After everyone slept, she would quietly prepare meals using leftover ingredients. She experimented. She improved recipes. She recreated dishes her grandmother had taught her years ago. Cooking became her escape, her comfort, her connection to the woman she missed every day. Months turned into years. Grace became known among the domestic staff for her incredible meals. Drivers, security guards, gardeners, and cleaners often found excuses to visit the staff kitchen. Not because they were hungry, because they wanted to taste her food. Many told her she should become a professional chef. Grace always laughed. How could a maid compete with trained chefs? Then one morning everything changed. A major television network announced Nigeria's biggest cooking competition, the Golden Spoon Challenge. The prize was enormous. $1 million. The competition promised to discover the country's next culinary superstar. Thousands of contestants were expected to apply. Professional chefs, restaurant owners, food influencers, celebrities. The entire nation became excited. Inside the Henderson mansion, the family couldn't stop discussing it. Vanessa planned to create reaction videos. Mrs. Henderson talked about attending VIP events. Mr. Henderson boasted about connections he had with sponsors. One evening during dinner, they watched advertisements for the competition. Grace happened to be serving drinks. Kyle laughed. Imagine a maid entering that competition. Everyone chuckled. Mrs. Henderson smirked. She'd probably burn water. The family burst into laughter. Grace forced a smile. But deep inside something stirred. That night she couldn't sleep. The advertisement replayed in her mind. $1 million. A chance to change her life. A chance to honor her grandmother. A chance to prove everyone wrong. The next morning she made a decision. She would enter, but she would do it secretly. Grace knew the Henderson family would never support her. If they discovered her plan, they might even fire her. So she created a disguise. Using savings she had carefully accumulated over the years, she purchased professional chef clothing, glasses, and a stylish wig. She registered under the name Chef G. Nobody connected the mysterious contestant to the maid from Lecky. The audition day arrived. Thousands lined up outside the venue. Many looked confident. Others looked nervous. Grace felt both. The judges sampled dish after dish. Contestants came and went. Hours passed. Finally, it was Grace's turn. She prepared village-style jollof rice infused with unique flavors she learned from her grandmother. The judges took one bite. Then another. Then another. Silence filled the room. One judge looked stunned. Another smiled. The third immediately requested a second serving. Within minutes, Grace advanced to the next round. For the first time in years, she felt hope. The competition quickly became a national sensation. Every week contestants faced new challenges: street food, traditional cuisine, modern fusion dishes, international cooking, desserts, luxury dining. Grace continued shocking everyone. Professional chefs underestimated her. Food influencers dismissed her. Celebrity contestants mocked her simple background story. Then they tasted her food and lost, again, and again, and again. Soon social media exploded with theories. Who was Chef G? Some believed she owned a hidden restaurant. Others thought she was secretly trained overseas. Many claimed she must come from a wealthy culinary family. Nobody guessed the truth. Meanwhile, Grace continued cleaning rooms every morning before quietly heading to filming sessions. Balancing both lives became exhausting, yet she refused to quit. Each victory reminded her of her grandmother. Each challenge felt like another step toward fulfilling a dream. As weeks passed, Nigeria fell in love with Chef G. Her humility stood out. While other contestants bragged, she remained respectful. While others sought attention, she focused on cooking. Fans admired her. Children looked up to her. Even rival contestants began respecting her talent. Back at the mansion, the Henderson family became obsessed with the competition. Ironically, they were among Chef G's biggest fans. Every episode they gathered around the television. That Chef G is amazing. She'll probably win. She's a genius. Grace listened quietly while serving snacks. Sometimes she wanted to laugh. Other times she wanted to cry. The people praising Chef G were the same people insulting Grace. But she remained silent. Eventually, the competition narrowed to 3 finalists. The entire country watched. Media attention intensified. Journalists investigated contestants. Fans organized viewing parties. Predictions filled social media. Chef G became the favorite to win. The final challenge was announced. Contestants had to prepare a meal representing their life story. Grace immediately knew what she would cook. She would honor her grandmother. The finale arrived. Millions tuned in. The atmosphere felt electric. Families gathered around televisions. Restaurants projected the event on giant screens. Even the Henderson family hosted a viewing party. When Grace arrived at the studio, emotions overwhelmed her. This was the moment she had dreamed about. The final challenge began. Contestants rushed to their stations. Ingredients flew. Pots boiled. Ovens heated. The clock ticked relentlessly. Grace focused on one thing: love. She prepared dishes inspired by childhood memories. Recipes passed down from generations. Flavors rooted in her village. Every ingredient carried meaning. Every spice carried memory. Every plate carried her grandmother's legacy. Hours later, the judges tasted the meals. The first finalist impressed them. The second finalist amazed them. Then came Chef G. The judges sampled the food. One judge became emotional. Another struggled to speak. The head judge slowly placed down his fork. "This is not just food," he said. "This is a story." The audience erupted into applause. Tears filled Grace's eyes. Then came the final moment. The host stepped onto the stage. Lights flashed. Music intensified. Millions watched. The winner of the Golden Spoon Challenge and recipient of $1 million is... The entire room held its breath. Chef G. The crowd exploded. Cheers echoed everywhere. Confetti filled the air. Grace covered her face and cried. Years of pain. Years of humiliation. Years of sacrifice. All came crashing out at once. Then the host made one final request. "The nation wants to know who Chef G really is." The audience cheered. The cameras zoomed in. Slowly, Grace removed her glasses. Then the wig. Then her chef cap. Gasps echoed throughout the studio. At the Henderson mansion, silence filled the room. Mrs. Henderson froze. Cal nearly dropped his drink. Vanessa stared at the television in disbelief. Mr. Henderson couldn't speak. There on the screen stood Grace, their maid, the woman they had mocked for years, the woman they claimed knew nothing, the woman they treated as invisible. She was the champion. The entire nation watched their stunned reactions during a live broadcast connection. Social media exploded instantly. People couldn't believe it. News headlines appeared within minutes. The maid who beat Nigeria's best chefs. Chef G revealed. From housekeeper to million-dollar champion. The story went viral. People celebrated Grace everywhere. Interviews followed. Television appearances. Magazine covers. Partnership offers. Restaurant investors. Opportunities arrived from every direction. A few days later, the Henderson family requested a meeting. Grace agreed. They sat awkwardly across from her. For the first time, they looked nervous. Mrs. Henderson apologized. Kyle apologized. Vanessa apologized. Mr. Henderson apologized. Whether the apologies were sincere or not, Grace couldn't fully tell. But she listened respectfully. Then she smiled. "I forgive you." The family looked relieved. But Grace wasn't finished. "I forgive you because my grandmother taught me kindness. But I will never allow anyone to treat me that way again." Those words stayed with them forever. Months later, Grace used part of her winnings to build a culinary academy for underprivileged youth. She wanted talented young people to have opportunities she never had. She also opened a restaurant inspired by her grandmother. The restaurant became famous across Nigeria. Visitors traveled from different states just to experience her cooking. At the entrance stood a beautiful portrait of Mama Rose. Every customer asked about it. Every customer heard the story. Every customer learned about the village woman whose recipes changed a young girl's life. One evening, after closing the restaurant, Grace stood before the portrait. The dining hall was quiet. The smell of freshly prepared food lingered in the air. For a moment she imagined her grandmother standing beside her. Smiling proudly, Grace looked around at everything she had built. The academy, the restaurant, the lives she had changed, the dream she had fulfilled. Then she whispered the words she wished she could have said years earlier. "We did it, Grandma." And somehow, deep in her heart, she felt that Mama Rose already knew. As Grace stood before the portrait of her beloved grandmother, she finally understood something powerful. Your circumstances do not define your future. People may underestimate you, ignore you, or even laugh at your dreams. But true talent, hard work, and perseverance always find a way to shine. The same hands that once scrubbed floors now held a championship trophy. The same voice that was rarely heard inspired an entire nation. And the same girl who was told she would never be anything special became living proof that greatness can come from the most unexpected places. If Grace's journey touched your heart, remember this. Never allow other people's opinions to determine your worth. Your gift may be hidden today, but with faith, dedication, and courage, your moment will come. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful African stories filled with hope, determination, redemption, and unforgettable lessons. Until next time, keep believing in your dreams, because sometimes the person everyone overlooks becomes the one nobody can ignore.